Magnificent. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to First Parish here in Concord, Massachusetts. Whether you are here in the pews, whether you are joining from home here in Concord, in another of the towns we draw from, or in the world, anywhere in the world, whether you are watching on YouTube later, welcome. It is good to be together this morning. I am glad you are here and glad to see your faces. I want to especially welcome back our gospel choir. Y'all, I am so excited to hear you sing. And our congregation is so excited to hear you sing. They're already clapping. One of our gospel choir members, you told me it has been about 2 years since you have sung in person, and gosh, isn't it good to be able to do the things that bring us joy and community in ways that are low enough risk? And isn't it good to have the technology that enables us to stay connected when the risk is too high for us personally? On that note, folks on Zoom, Jan Power is your chat host. Feel free to ask her any questions. And Jan, thank you for being our ringleader and community cheerleader this morning. If you are here in person, or if you think maybe you would come in person, but you're not sure about this camera idea, you might want to know that the pews on the left, on your left side, are off camera, so you can come in and have a little bit more privacy there, a little bit more shelter from our public world. We are a community that supports access and accessibility for all of us, whether abled or disabled. We have hearing assist headphones that are available from the ushers in the back of the sanctuary. We have an elevator through these doors on your left. And all restrooms, which are on the lower level, have accessible stalls, and we have a couple gender-neutral restrooms. We are glad you're here this morning. We're grateful to all of you for taking care of this community. To keep us all safer, masks must be worn inside the building. Also, social distance, please. Our worship leaders, choir, including our gospel choir, and teachers are all vaccinated. We strongly encourage vaccination for everyone who is able, as this is how we care for ourselves and one another. Our gospel choir will sing an anthem and today a special postlude. And as a congregation, we will sing a hymn at the close of our service. We are keeping the windows open a bit to improve ventilation, so let's all continue to bundle up, bring hand warmers, sit towards the center if you tend colder. You might notice sometimes if there's a big wind, you might notice a gust from the fans. That happened last week right in the middle of our prayer. I like to think it was Spirit joining us, but it's just the wind and the fans and maybe God. We would like you to remind you to stay home as needed if you're not feeling well, even if you think it's just a cold. These mild cases can be tricky. If you or a family member has tested positive for COVID, please call or email a member of the church staff. And if there's been an exposure at church, we will let you know while protecting the privacy of the person who was positive. Together, we covenant to reduce the risk of COVID by each doing our part. Our call to worship today is by Reverend Kimberly Tomczyk Carlson. It is not by chance that you arrived here today. You have been looking for something larger than yourself. Inside of you, there's a yearning, a calling, a hope for more. A desire for a place of belonging and caring. Through your struggles, someone has nurtured you into being, instilling a belief in a shared purpose, a common yet precious resource that belongs to all of us when we share. And so you you begin seeking a beloved community, a people that does not put fences around love, a community that holds its arms open to possibilities of love, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Welcome home. Come, let us worship. Howard will help us light all of our candles this morning.
Each week when we gather, we light a chalice, knowing that it connects us to one another and to Unitarian Universalists throughout our country and around the world. It also connects us to all people of faith wherever they are. This morning we light this chalice as we are in the Advent season, a time of waiting, a time of expectation, a time of wondering. Please join with the unison chalice lighting response that is printed in your order of service. O flame of our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength. Enliven our spirits and engage us deeply in this life of ours, this sacred, essential moment now. It being Advent, we've been lighting the candles in our Advent wreath as we've gone along. The first Sunday of Advent, we lit a candle for hope. The second Sunday, we lit a candle for peace. Last Sunday, we lit a candle for joy. And this Sunday, we light a candle for love. Hear these words by Howard Thurman. I will light candles this season, candles for joy despite all sadness, candles of hope where despair keeps watch, candles of courage for fears ever present, candles of peace for tempest-tossed days, candles of grace to ease heavy burdens, candles of love to inspire my living, candles that will burn all the year long. Let us center ourselves and settle in to some centering music. Our responsive reading this morning is found in the gray hymnal in your pew, or it will appear on a slide in Zoom. The number is 639. I invite you to turn to number 639, Love One Another, and Beth and Anderson will lead us through this. Come on up, Anderson.
Love one another. Let us love one another because love is from God.
Whoever does not love God does not know God, for God is love.
No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us.
God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them.
There is no fear in love, for perfect love casts out fear.
Those who say, I love God, and hate their brothers and sisters are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God, whom they have not seen.
No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us. Amen.
Our reading is Gate A4 by Palestinian-American poet Naomi Shihab Nye. Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal, after learning my flight had been delayed 4 hours, I heard the announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate A4 understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate A4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing. "Help," said the flight agent. "Talk to her. What is her problem? We told her the flight was going to be delayed, and she did this." I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke haltingly. "Shudoa, shubiduk habibti, stani shwe, min fadlik shubit shiwe." The minute she heard any words she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, "No, you're fine. You'll get there, just later. Who is picking you up? Let's call him." We called her son. I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and ride next to her. She talked to him. Then we called her other sons, just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, they have 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took up 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling of her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She pulled a sack of homemade mamoul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, from her bag, and was offering them to all of the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from Colorado, the lovely woman from Laredo, we were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. Then the airline broke out free apple juice from huge coolers, and 2 little girls ran around serving it, and they were covered in powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend, by now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing, with green furry leaves. Such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant, always stay rooted to somewhere. And I looked around that gate of late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. Not a single person at that gate, once the crying and confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies, I wanted to hug all those other women too. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. As a student chaplain, I discovered that sometimes when I listen deeply to people, I feel my whole self light up with love and care for them. I feel an expansiveness and a living connection between us, as if my caring could extend beyond my heart to fill the whole room. One time after we prayed, a patient said she could see the love of God in me. I was surprised. As a Unitarian Universalist, it's not my native language. I didn't quite know what she meant, but more, I didn't know that others could see the shift that I felt. The love that I had just from hearing her story. I guess my caring did expand from my heart to fill the whole room. This is part of how we create this shared world. We start with our love and care. Cookies, a cooler full of apple juice, phone calls to our family and friends just for the fun of it. Kindness. And then love gets trickier, it gets harder. Love asks us to compassionately say yes when someone asks for our help. Love asks us to really show up for ourselves and one another, for our neighbors and strangers alike. It's easier not to. There's a temptation to do what's comfortable, to avoid that hard conversation, to rationalize not signing another petition or calling our representatives. It's not surprising that we don't always want to say yes to love's call. We are, after all, still living through a global pandemic. Do you remember this time last year, with vaccines just on the horizon, when we thought an end was just around the corner? How wrong we were. Cases have only continued to climb. Here in Massachusetts, there have been over 1 million cases of COVID, and too many people have died. And while we know more now about how to keep ourselves safe, it is good to be masking. It is good to be following our precautions. At the same time, we're facing the uncertainty of another new variant. Of course we're exhausted. Part of me wants to just be done with it all. Shout enough, throw caution to the wind, and abandon all of these precautions I've been keeping up for so long. Another part of me wants to hunker down at home. Wake me up when it's over. Love asks instead that we lament the continuing pandemic, get our boosters if we can, and don our masks when we walk out the door, or roll out the door, or scoot out the door. Then there are the twin pandemics of racism and climate chaos, both bound up in the history of imperialism, colonization, and white supremacy culture in our country and our world. Here in our congregation, most of us have a significant amount of privilege, whether it's because of our race, class, gender, or a combination of these and other parts of our identity. Not that our lives haven't been hard, for some of us in really big ways, but that these random factors of birth haven't made our lives harder. What do we do with our privilege? We leverage it for justice and liberation. We interrupt when something's not right, even little microaggressions. They add up over time, but so does our interrupting. We educate ourselves about white supremacy culture and cis heterosexism, all of the systems that interlock and intertwine. Though education alone is not enough, it's important. And we support leaders who are targets of these systems of oppression, especially young people of color. Let's turn to feminist educator and academic Bell Hooks, who sadly died this week, but opened the door to many, many of us, many people who have followed in her footsteps. She offers love as the force that will sustain us in our ongoing effort. We cannot only believe that justice and equality are important, but we must actively love one another. Hooks wrote, "The moment we choose to love, we begin to move against domination, against oppression. The moment we choose to love, we begin to move toward freedom, to act in ways that liberate ourselves and others. Love allows us to create a culture of conversion where there is a mass turning away from an ethic of domination." Bell Hooks reminds us that when we love ourselves, we want to break out of the boxes that society puts us in. And when we love others, we want to dismantle the systems of oppression that keep us all in boxes. Learning to love ourselves and one another, Hooks says, starts with the shared world. She writes, "Enjoying the benefits of living and loving in community empowers us to meet strangers without fear and extend to them the gift of openness and recognition. Just by speaking to a stranger, acknowledging their presence on the planet, we make a connection. Being kind and courteous connects us to one another." Here at church, we practice living and loving in community. We practice building the shared world. Becoming a more welcoming and loving community will help us all to extend our love and care to strangers in our daily lives, whether in a kind conversation with someone we pass on the street, responding when called to help at our gate at the airport, or joining in the movement for justice. Love one another. If we love one another, God lives in us. As musician India Ari sings, "I am a God on the inside." Each of us realizes that sacred love in our own way. For me, it's that feeling of lighting up with love that fills the whole room. For you, it may be a different sensation, an image, a phrase that comes to mind. What's important is that we say yes, that we continue to choose love and continue to build the shared world together. Blessed be, and amen. Our reflection question today, which you can type in the chat or share with a neighbor, is, where does God's sacred love live in you? Or how do you experience that love?
That was fantastic. Thank you so much to the gospel choir. What a great message. We come to a thoughtful, prayerful, meditative time in our service, a time in which we think of those that we are connected to and the joys and the sorrows in their lives. In a moment, you'll have an opportunity to speak into this space the loved ones who you are thinking of today, or type their names into the chat online. From the parish concerns list, Linda B. is grieving for the families in Kentucky near where her sister lives who have been impacted by the recent tornadoes. Cindy S. and Rob W. are grieving the loss of their very dear friend, Sandy Nyack, who died suddenly on December 9th. Sandy was like a sister to Cindy. We hold Cindy, Rob, and Linda in our hearts. We send prayers for community recovery to everyone who was impacted by the tornadoes. And now, who is on your mind? Someone experiencing a great joy in their life or a deep sorrow? I invite you to say their name into this space or type it into the chat, knowing that we will hold all of those names together. And as we are led in spirit of life, let us hum along or simply let the music wash over us.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow when the wind rise and the sea move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Root, hold me close, when set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Let us continue in a spirit of meditation and prayer with these words by the first Dalai Lama, the Venerable Lama Gendun Rinpoche, who lived from 1391 to 1474. I invite you to close your eyes or look gently in front of you as these old words, this old lesson washes over you. Happiness cannot be found through great effort and willpower. It is already there in relaxation and letting go. Don't strain yourself. There is nothing to do. Whatever arises in the mind has no importance at all because it has no reality whatsoever. Don't become attached to it. Don't pass judgment. Let the game happen on its own, springing up and falling back without changing anything, and all will vanish and reappear without end. Only our searching for happiness prevents us from seeing it. It is like a rainbow, which you run after without ever catching it. Although it does not exist, it has always been there and accompanies you every instant. Don't believe in the reality of good and bad experiences. They are like rainbows. Waiting to grasp the ungraspable, you exhaust yourself in vain. As soon as you relax this grasping, space is there, open, inviting, and comfortable. So make use of it. All is yours already. Don't search any further. Don't go into the jungle looking for the elephant who is already quietly at home. Nothing to do, nothing to force, nothing to want, and everything happens by itself. Let us hold the silence together. As we are led and find a stillness, please hum along.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find a silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find a true harmony.
December's Share the Plate organization is Dignity in Asylum. And today, come on up. Today, our social action candle will be lit by and for them.
Hello, I'm Sharon Carlson, and Andrea and I started Dignity in Asylum over 7 years ago. And I know she talked last week about what we do. We provide safe transitional housing to asylum seekers until they're able to get their work authorization and pay for their own housing. Last week she told you about a couple that we helped a few years ago who ended up having a baby while we were housing them, which was really wonderful. This week I want to tell you about a different gentleman and a different way we help people. He had come here from Cameroon. He had fled during the civil conflict there and had left his family behind. When he got to Boston, he did not want to go to the homeless shelter. He was afraid of that and found himself sleeping in stairwells at night, and then he would clear his things out during the day and walk around during the day. We really did want to help him, but at the time we didn't have any vacancies in any of our apartments that we lease. So we asked him to look for his own room, and if he could find one, we would pay for it. And he was able to. He was amazing, very resourceful person. And he found his own room, and we subsidized that room until he was able to work. He got an internship while he was in the room and then ended up finding a job. He was extremely resourceful, found a job in his profession, working in environmental safety for people working with the state. And he's doing that today. He transitioned out a few years ago and is very successful and happy and supporting himself in Western Massachusetts. So because of your help, because of you sharing the plate with us, we can provide more assistance to guests like this, and we're so very, very grateful for your support. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Andrea. It is time to take up an offering for the good work of Dignity and Asylum, our Share the Plate organization this month, as well as First Parish, are offering each week a split 50-50 for the work within and beyond our walls. I welcome and appreciate your generosity this morning, for First Parish is entirely self-sustaining, and Dignity in Asylum is a very good cause. Thank you for your generosity.
As we come to the end of our service, I'd like to invite you to stick around. We are being the hearty New Englanders that we are, and we're continuing to have coffee hour outside. Our plan is to do this even into January and February, so bundle up, bring your hat and your gloves to church. If it really is just too cold outside for you and you want to chat, you can find some place in the building to remain masked and chat with somebody that you'd like to, but all the rest of us are going to be out there at coffee hour, so come on out. There's also the worship sharing circle, which happens up in the Ripley room. So if you go up the stairs outside here and just keep going, it's the furthest back room there. That's a nice opportunity to talk about the themes of the service with a small group of people. So if you're interested in that, that's the worship sharing circle. It is the week of Christmas. It's going to be another strange Christmas, but by gum, we're going to do it. The plan is to have one 4 o'clock service out in front on the green. So come bundled up, come prepared to spend about an hour outdoors. Pray for good weather. That is all I ask of you. Just, all prayers for a nice, mild afternoon. There'll be wonderful singing, the Christmas story, and then we'll light candles at the end with Silent Night. All are welcome because we can just fit as many people as will want to show up. We'll also live stream that service as well. So that is 4 o'clock on Christmas Eve. We're going to be closed on the 26th to give everybody a break. And so just enjoy a past service on YouTube if you'd like a little church that morning. Please open the email that's entitled FP Weekly that comes to you each week. If you're not getting it for any reason, just give the church office a call and we can make sure we get that figured out. Sometimes it goes in the spam filter. We have a welcome table outdoors. Susan C. is here, as is Sophie Wadsworth, and they'll be staffing that table this morning. Especially if you're new to the church, please go and say hi to them and chat with them a little bit. Gib Medcalf is our standing committee member here. He's raised his hand right there in the back. Just find Gib outside if you have any questions about the standing committee or want to chat with him. There's also a card table out there where you can write cards for pastoral milestones if you would like. And this morning we are indebted to the Flower Committee and Pastoral Care folks and lots of other folks who organized the beautiful, beautiful plants up in front of us. You would have received a piece of paper when you came in. It's got the names of all of the folks that those are in memory of. Thank you to everyone who made a donation toward the holiday plants and honored a loved one that way. We'll also have a slide of those names that will appear in the Zoom online service at the end of the service. I think that's it for the business. Let's stand and sing a hymn, which feels so good to do. We're going to be singing number 231, Angels We Have Heard on High, number 231 in your gray hymnal. Please rise, sing out.
As you move into the world, may you be moving into our share world. May compassion meet you at every turn. May there be plenty of cookies this season and always. May your heart open with compassion for every person you meet. May we together build this shared world. And let us say together, go out into the world in kind peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Gospel choir, take us home.